You've heard the name, right? The Bermuda Triangle. For decades, it's been this legendary patch of the Atlantic Ocean that's just captured our imagination like nothing else. A place of myth, of countless disappearances. But what if the biggest mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is that there's no mystery at all? Okay, let's dive in.
The story we all know is pretty wild, isn't it? This idea of a cursed stretch of ocean, basically an aquatic graveyard where the normal rules just don't apply. We've heard all the tales, alien abductions, portals to other dimensions, maybe even some leftover tech from the lost city of Atlantis.
But what if the real story is something else entirely? Something that's not grounded in science fiction, but in plain, simple science and, just probability. That's exactly what we're going to explore here.
First things first, let's get our bearings. This area, it's not an official place you'll find on any map. It's a pretty loosely defined region, and it happens to be one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the entire world. You've got constant traffic, sea and air, going between the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean.
So the legend is really built on this claim, that more than 50 ships and 20 planes have disappeared inside this triangle, a lot of them without a single trace. No wreckage, no distress calls, just silence. And there's one incident, one single event that cemented this myth more than any other, the disappearance of Flight 19.
So let's go back. The date is December 5th, 1945. This is really the one that started it all. The day 5 U.S. Navy bombers just vanished on a crystal clear afternoon.
And these weren't just any planes. They were Grumman Avenger bombers, tough, reliable planes. They called them Iron Birds. They took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for what was supposed to be a totally routine 3-hour training exercise. They were never seen again.
Now, what's so wild when you look at the timeline is just how fast it all unraveled. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was an experienced pilot, but he was new to the area. He got it in his head that both of his compasses were broken and that he was way off course, over the Florida Keys. But the thing is, he wasn't. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. But that confusion led him to turn the wrong way, fatally eastward, deeper and deeper into the Atlantic, just as the weather got worse and their fuel started to run out.
And then, as if that wasn't mysterious enough, this happened. A rescue plane, a PBM Mariner, with a crew of 13, was sent out to find them, and it vanished too. A tanker out in the ocean actually reported seeing a huge explosion in the sky, right at the time and in the location where the Mariner would have been.
So think about that. In a single afternoon, 27 U.S. servicemen were lost, 5 bombers and a rescue plane. Gone. And with no wreckage ever found, the door was blown wide open for all kinds of speculation.
And oh boy, did people speculate. The story of Flight 19 became the cornerstone of a legend that just grew and grew, pulling in all sorts of supernatural ideas. So let's look at how this thing went from a tragic accident to a paranormal fantasy.
I mean, over the years, the theories got pretty out there. Some people claimed lost energy crystals from Atlantis were responsible. Others, of course, pointed to UFOs abducting the crews. There was even a pilot who claimed he flew through a strange electronic fog that actually warped time and space.
Now get this. This quote right here, supposedly from the Flight 19 leader, was published in a magazine back in 1962. It's super dramatic, it's chilling, and it really fanned the flames of the supernatural theories. There's just one tiny problem: it's completely made up. No official transcript of the radio calls contains anything like these words, and this is a perfect example of how the myth got built. Okay, so now let's hit the brakes and pivot hard. Here's a quote from scientist Karl Kruszelinski, and it really just cuts right through all the noise. When you actually look at the massive amount of boat and plane traffic in this area, and you do the math, the number of disappearances isn't weird at all. It's statistically normal.
And that brings us to what the scientific world has been saying for decades. Oceanographers, meteorologists, investigators, they all agree there's no supernatural mystery here that needs solving.
And listen, this isn't just one person's opinion. This is the official position of NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They've crunched the numbers, they've looked at the data, and their conclusion is that there is nothing uniquely dangerous or paranormal about this particular part of the ocean.
So if it's not aliens or time warps, then what is it? Well, it turns out it's a perfect storm of very real-world things. You have a super busy area combined with some of the planet's most unpredictable weather and some really tricky navigational conditions. So let's break these down. First, the weather out there can be absolutely brutal and can turn on a dime. Second, you have the Gulf Stream, which is basically a massive, fast-moving river inside the ocean that can scatter wreckage for hundreds of miles, making it impossible to find. Third, that compass thing is real, but it's predictable. And finally, the number one factor in most accidents anywhere in the world, plain old human error.
I mean, just look at this. The Atlantic can whip up these monster storms and rogue waves that can be 100 feet tall, that can pop up with almost no warning and just swallow even huge ships whole. That's not supernatural, that's just the awesome power of nature.
And what about the haywire compass theory? Well, it's based on a real thing, but again, it's not a mystery. The triangle is one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north actually line up. As you travel through the area, your compass can seem to shift if you aren't ready for it. For a pilot like Lieutenant Taylor, already confused back in 1945, this known predictable phenomenon probably just added to the chaos.
Here's another really cool scientific theory. The ocean floor in this region has huge deposits of methane gas. Scientists think that a sudden, massive eruption of this gas could create a huge area of frothy, bubbly water. The water's density would drop so much that any ship floating on top of it would just sink like a rock with absolutely no warning. But you know, maybe the most telling piece of evidence of all comes from the people who bet billions of dollars on risk, the insurance industry. Lloyd's of London has been analyzing this stuff since the 1970s, and they do not charge higher insurance premiums for ships going through the triangle. If there was a real, measurable danger there, trust me, they'd be the first to know and the first to charge you more for it. So, if the stats don't back it up, the scientists say no, and the insurance companies literally aren't buying it, why are we still so fascinated by the Bermuda Triangle? The answer really is that it's a manufactured mystery. It's just a fantastic story, built up by writers who cherry-picked the best incidents, ignored all the logical explanations like bad weather or mechanical problems, and sometimes they just made stuff up, like that whitewater quote. Frankly, it's a much better story than a pilot got lost and ran out of gas. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. The evidence is overwhelming that the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is, for all intents and purposes, solved. The culprit isn't anything paranormal, it's a mix of nature, physics, and human fallibility. So the real question is, why do we keep choosing the thrilling mystery over the kind of mundane truth? Maybe the unknown is just too fun to ever completely let go of.